we're talking about the differences between America, USA, and Europe because Thomas is an American who moved from California to Italy. And I'm so excited about this conversation because I'm Polish. I teach English just like Thomas, but I've lived in Boston for many years, and I love America,
Hmm.
and I love Italy as well. So, I have lots of questions for you.
Okay, yeah, it's whatever you want to ask, go ahead.
All right. Well, the first question I think is something that most people are curious about is what are the reasons? Why did you move from California to Italy?
Well, it's not ever like something, I mean, people ask me every day, of course, so it's not something that has one answer, like I moved for a wife or something. It's just really like a lot of reasons. I've had my Italian citizenship
Mhm.
for, um, now I've had it for 13 years.
Wow.
But when I made the decision, when I was like, oh, I'm going to try to live in Italy, that was in October 2020. And so at that point, I'd had the option for 7 years. And so I really just decided to give it a try. I wanted to try to live in a new place while I still felt young. I had seen most of the United States. I think I've seen like 37 states, and
Wow.
not another state. There wasn't another state that was really calling me to live there instead. So
Hmm. Not
um,
cold Massachusetts.
yeah, I've been there. I've been in Boston before. Only like one day though. I went to Springfield
Mhm.
also for the Basketball Hall of Fame, and I saw like a Red Sox game in Boston, and
Mhm.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So, if it comes to the differences, what are the biggest differences you've noticed between daily life in Italy and daily life in the US? Maybe what shocked you when you moved to the US,
Like
to
honestly,
Italy?
the first shock wasn't like entirely positive, just because I wasn't used to seeing young people smoking at all, and that's kind of like
Okay.
a European thing. I mean, in
Hmm.
California, if people smoke, they smoke only weed because it's legal,
Hmm.
as it is in I think about half the states in the United States. Seeing someone smoke a cigarette is like almost you just don't
Yeah.
see that,
Boston
and
smells
so.
like weed as well.
Yeah, so when I saw that, that was like a culture
Mhm.
shock. On the more positive side, just the fact that I got used to quickly being able to live without a car because
Mhm.
I'd never been able to do that. Even in large cities in the United States, for the most part, you pretty much need a car to really adapt to the society there. I mean, there might be some exceptions, like living in New York City or San Francisco,
Or
but
Boston.
yeah, really, you
Mhm.
live in downtown Boston,
Um,
so
yeah, like
yeah,
East Boston, but
yeah.
public transportation is pretty well. It works really well, I
Oh,
think. I
that's
mean,
cool. Yeah,
you can move around. I mean, of course, it's good to have a car, but
yeah.
I love the T and T
Yeah.
train, in Boston. Yeah,
Okay, so you don't drive a car in Boston?
I did actually. I
Uh,
drove a car too, but you don't really have to because
yeah,
it's public
you can
transportation.
survive, yeah.
Yep.
Like in my town in California, it would really be impossible. There's just big
Oh.
stretches of nothing.
Hmm.
There's more space for sure than even in like the Italian countryside. It still feels more cramped than the city I'm from,
Yeah.
which is not like San Francisco or Los Angeles. There's more space. And so there you just really need a car to get across those long distances. It's just impossible to not have a car.
So did you like it in Italy that you actually didn't have to drive a car anymore that much?
Yeah, I mean it's a
Right?
nice thing
Hmm.
because it's just one more thing you don't have to worry about. Like, my last car, I often had to fix issues with it so often, and really I can just get anywhere. And also the train system is just really good compared to the United States, you know?
Hmm.
It's really well connected. I've seen a map before of the United States train system versus the European train system, and it's like every little part of Europe is connected with trains, and that's not the case in the United States. There's entire states that don't have trains at all, like in Wyoming and South Dakota and stuff.
Yeah.
There's no train that even passes through it. So that's a pretty big difference, I would say.
It's a big
Yeah.
advantage, right, in Europe that we have
Uh,
good public transportation.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty easy to just get on. I have one app that works in every country too, because I know there's like apps specific to each country that you can use. Like here in Italy, there's Trenitalia, but I have this app that just works for every country. So even when I've been to other countries, like you can just buy a quick train ticket. It's just very
Mhm.
simple and streamlined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it comes to smoking cigarettes, I even forgot about it, but that's true. When I was growing up in Poland and, traveling around Europe, that's true. I remember
Hmm.
that lots of French people, Italian people would smoke, Polish people too. And I think
Yeah.
it's changed. I don't have too many friends or like family members who smoke at this moment, but they used to.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I was in Krakow, I went to Krakow in December 2024, and I noticed it was less. It wasn't non-existent, but
Hmm.
it was less than Southern
Yeah.
Europe. I think Southern Europe just still does it more than maybe Northern Europe. Like I know countries like Sweden, they all but don't do it anymore at all. So it just depends where you're from and where you're like which part of Europe you're. Like Europe is hard to summarize as a whole
Hmm.
landmass because every country is so different. They all have different
Yep.
laws. It's kind of like the states within the United States. They have
I
different laws
know.
too. You
I
know,
know.
like I know, for example, if you drive from Massachusetts to New Jersey, you know, in New Jersey, it's illegal to pump your own gas in the car, for example.
Overall, I
So
didn't
it's
even
just
know
like
that.
a small little example of a law that only exists in one
Yeah.
state, not in the other. You know, that's very common in the United States. And people even move from one state in the United States to
Hmm.
another simply because they prefer the way the laws work in that state or for tax reasons or things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Insurance too, like
Hmm.
healthcare system. That's the thing that sometimes, I publish some reels, some kind of like information about American insurance, and I had like 50-50 comments. Like some people were like, yes, you're right. Other people were like, no, you're not right. It's because
Yeah.
some people had experience from Massachusetts, other people from Florida, from
Yeah.
different states, and I think everyone was right. It just
Yeah.
depends where you live, what's your experience.
Yeah, so I think that there's some things you can say are generally true about all of the United
Mhm.
States and all of Europe, but then there's some things that you really can't generalize and summarize because they're really dependent on the state within the United States or the country within Europe. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's true. Any other shocking things when you moved to Europe, to Italy, something that
Hmm.
surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about a lot of different shocking things. Well, there's the Italian food that I discovered that never actually made it to the United States. Because what we have in the United States is like really Italian American food is different
Uh-huh.
than Italian food. It's like what happened is we had all the immigrants from southern Italy, basically most of them are from southern Italy, and they were from different regions of Italy. Um, so sometimes they couldn't even immediately communicate with each other when they landed in the United States because in Italy there's still strong dialects. Like if you're from Sicily, Calabria, Campania, these different regions,
Mhm.
you might not even be able to communicate with those other Italians perfectly because you have these different dialects, but you still felt more similar to that other Italian that was from a different part of Italy than you did with, let's say, the Polish immigrants and the Irish immigrants. So the
Mhm.
Italians like kind of stuck together and they melted into this new type of Italian, which is actually different than the Italians were, in Italy itself. And they started kind of combining their cuisines and they started using ingredients that were available in the United States and maybe weren't
That's
available in
smart.
Italy. And so the cuisine kind of evolved, and some of the things that we consider Italian American, that we consider Italian food in the United
Yeah.
States, real Italians really are like, oh my gosh, that is not Italian.
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah, like if you go to an Italian restaurant in Boston, you'd probably be served garlic bread. This is not something you do in actual Italy. They find that very strange. Also, you would, if not garlic bread, they'd give you bread rolls and then give you butter, and that doesn't happen as well. Spaghetti and meatballs is also an American invention.
Yeah.
Fettuccine Alfredo is an
Mhm.
American, Italian American invention. And then, so then on the other side, there's all these Italian dishes that I really like piadinas, panzerotti, that never actually made it to the United States, or maybe they're too similar to a dish that is popular in the United States, so they really don't catch on. Like I think piadinas don't really catch on in the United States because they're kind of similar to like tacos and burritos and Greek food. So people they're not familiar with it, even though that's very common and popular here in Italy.
Wow, that's so interesting. You know, I absolutely love this neighborhood in Boston. It's called Little Italy in the North End. It's
Yeah,
beautiful, and there are lots of Italian restaurants. There is a very strong, big Italian community. But I was
nice.
always curious, like, is this Italian American food? Like, is it really authentic? Because, you know, it's advertised as
Yeah.
Italian, like authentic.
Yeah, well, I think in the biggest cities, you could find like real authentic Italian food that was from
Mhm,
someone that has immigrated to the United States more recently, rather
mhm,
than the like third or fourth generation
mhm.
uh, whose ancestors immigrated, like their great grandparents. It would
Makes
be
sense.
different, and it also depends on the customers because
Yeah.
the standard American that lives, you know, in the middle of America will want Italian American food because that's what they're used to. So if you try to serve them what's from actual Italy, they're going to be confused and they'll think incorrectly, this isn't
Mhm.
Italian food, but you know, it's because there really is a difference. And I think this happens with every cuisine, like in the United States or Europe, what we consider like Chinese food is really different than what they actually eat in China, you know, so it maybe happens in with Polish food as well. I don't know. Um, I have had like pierogi
Mhm.
in the United States and other Polish foods, so I don't know how
Mhm.
authentic they are to real Polish cuisine, but I don't know.
Yeah, it really depends who makes them.
Yeah, but I do love Polish food. I have a lot of Polish friends here actually,
Yeah.
and we had a Polish party at my house. I could send you pictures of the food, the dishes that we made sometime.
All right.
Yeah,
This sounds very interesting.
yeah,
So yeah, if it comes to the food,
yeah.
actually, do you really see the difference? Like, you know, because lots of people say that European food is much better than American.
Well, you know, like when you go to a grocery store in the United States, they usually have an organic section and like just
Mhm.
regular vegetables, you know? And I don't
Mhm.
think they do that in Italy because they just only sell the high quality vegetables. There isn't like two tiers of vegetables, you know? And so I always,
Mhm.
when I moved here, I realized that there isn't such a thing as this organic
Oh,
because like in the United States, you go to a grocery store and you have organic and then you have non-organic, and maybe the
yes.
non-organic vegetables and fruits have like growth hormone or pesticides,
Yeah.
and these are actually because it benefits the grower. They can grow in larger numbers, and maybe it's their vegetables are less prone to being attacked by insects,
Yeah.
and so they actually um, benefit, but that's what makes the cost lower. And so the farmer that wants to not use pesticides and not use human growth or like growth hormone has to pay more because or has to charge more because they're like the costs are offset. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas in Europe there isn't that. There's just like one tier of vegetables, and from what I understand, it's a high tier. It's a high quality because a lot of these substances in the United States that are mainstream are actually banned, like in all of Europe.
Mhm.
So yeah.
So my experience is what you just said, that in the US we have organic food, which is very
Hmm.
expensive.
Yeah.
So if you buy organic all the time, you can really, like, you know, go bankrupt pretty much.
Yeah. So
It's
then
expensive.
sometimes you're tempted to
Um,
buy the lower quality and you're like, well,
yeah.
it's still a tomato, but perhaps it was just treated with more pesticides and substances that I'm fairly certain a lot of them are banned in Europe that are accepted in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, my kind of, I was shocked when after like 1 year or 2 years in the USA, like constantly living there constantly,
Hmm.
I came back to Poland and I did some groceries and I bought some produce
Yeah.
and everything was going bad super quickly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you
So
know what
there's more.
happened?
preservatives in the United States
Exactly.
food.
And I
Yeah.
completely forgot about it because in the US, when I bought arugula or something like some lettuce, I kept it for 1 week or even sometimes 1.5, and it still looked good, fresh. And
Yeah.
here in
Hmm.
Poland, after like 2, 3 days, everything had mold. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like what's
Yeah.
happening?
No, I've noticed the same in Italy too. It's like, and also it's a difference in the way you buy groceries because in the United States, everyone has a car and you go to shops like Costco where you buy things
Mhm.
in bulk. And
Yeah,
that doesn't exist here either. It's like I need to go to the grocery store multiple times a week because the blueberries I buy will go bad in within 3 days if I don't eat them. So I have to eat
totally.
them quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is a noticeable difference. Another thing that I didn't mention that I should have mentioned, because it was also one of the first things I noticed when I arrived was in August. And in Italy, pretty much the whole second half of the month is just everyone's on vacation, and this
Oh.
is this is like Italy wide. I don't think they do this in every part of Europe,
Mhm.
but they have what's called Ferragosto, and basically the entire country shuts down for those 2 weeks. And when I moved to Milan, I was just like, this place is a ghost town, is because I didn't know about this before. And then people started to come back in September, and I realized, okay, this is how it normally is. But yeah, just the amount of time that they take off compared to Americans. This ties
Mhm.
into the concept of workaholics,
Yeah.
versus people that um, are more working to live versus living to work.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my observation as well. Oh, by the way, English with Veronica. Veronica, hello. Hi from
Hello,
Greece. So
yeah, thank you
lovely.
guys for joining. Sorry if we haven't been paying attention to you.
No problem. I had this observation as well when I moved to America. Before I was used to this concept of 2, 3 weeks a year of vacation that Polish
Yeah,
people usually take, usually, right? Not everyone.
yeah,
Um, but in America, I know that lots of people go on vacation for like if for like 3 days, 4 days, a few
yeah, in a
days.
whole year, in a whole year.
Mhm.
So
Exactly,
in
in a whole
Italy,
year.
yeah, in Italy, that would be unthinkable because they not only have those 2 weeks off that
Hmm.
everybody has off, but they,
Hmm.
in addition to that, they take other vacation, depending on when they want to throughout the year. So it's like those 2 years is just like a given. You're going to have at least those 2 years. And
Hmm.
then, people will take a vacation in March or there's like one in December if they want to do something for Christmas. And they also have the concept of the ponte. So like if a national holiday lands on a Thursday, for example, they'll be like, okay, let's also take off Friday, like
Hmm.
where they would definitely wouldn't do that in the United States. It'd be like, okay, yeah,
No.
maybe that Thursday will be off, but we're definitely going back to work on Friday.
Yeah.
And there's just overall more there's more holidays just overall. Like if you look at the calendar throughout the year, there's more days that everyone doesn't go to work in Italy. Maybe I want to say like at least double, maybe even 3 times as many.
Catholic
And
holidays are not only.
sorry, can you say that again?
Catholic holidays are not only
Yeah,
like
some
religious holidays.
some are for religion, and that's an interesting thing. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But some are just for. There was one for the end of fascism in Italy, and then there's one for when Italy became a republic. So those are two separate days that are both celebrated with everybody has the day off. And like I said, if it lands on a Thursday, they will also take off Friday. Um, or if it lands on a Tuesday, they'll also take off Monday. They call that a ponte, which is a bridge. Like you get a little bridge. Um, as well, they have this concept. This is totally unique to Italy, I think. Maybe they do this also in countries like Spain and Portugal. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it may just be unique to only Italy. And they have a concept where each city has like their own saint,
Hmm.
every city and every town, and then that city and town for that saint's birthday has that day off of work, completely off work, but the rest of Italy doesn't.
Hmm.
So in Milan, I think it's in December, I think. But the one in Milan is different than the one in Rome, and is different in the one for the one in Naples and Florence. And it's interesting because I can't imagine that in the United States, like where, let's say, there's a Los Angeles day or a Chicago day or a Boston day, where everyone in that city doesn't work, but the rest of the country works, you know?
No, no.
They have no they have nothing like that.
Capitalism, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's a positive of Italy. I mean, of course,
Mhm.
you still have a capitalist country, but they just tend to have less of a workaholic nature
Mhm.
or culture than the United States. And you know, I live in Milan, which is considered the most workaholic place in the whole country, and still, like compared to a small town in California, like it still seems to me more relaxed work-wise.
Mhm.
Hey, my friend Magdi joined the chat. Yes, in Italy we have so many
Oh,
excuses for celebrating. Yes, it's true.
oh, okay. That's good to know.
Oh, and
Um,
my Polish friend just joined as well.
yes. Oh, hello, Taste. That's nice.
Her name's Silvia. Silvia
Yeah.
with the W.
So,
Silvia.
okay. Of course, I know. Um, so maybe another question. Um, Yeah, how would you compare work culture in Italy and the US? So you said that workaholism is something that you have observed mostly in Italy comparing to the US. Anything else related to work culture?
Yeah, I can say that there's this concept of aperitivo,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty interesting. It's like you go after work with your colleagues to places that are like a restaurant, but you don't really have a full meal there because also Italians eat dinner pretty much later than I think every
Uh-huh.
country. Like it's pretty standard
Mhm.
for them to eat dinner at 9 or 9:30, even
Very
10.
late. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even for
super late.
Polish people, it's late. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they have this aperitivo thing. Maybe you and your team gets off work at 6 p.m. and you
Mm-hmm.
go to a little place that's an aperitivo and you basically just buy one drink, can be an alcoholic drink or a non-alcoholic drink, but that drink comes with a bunch of snacks. So they'll bring you like little pieces of meat like prosciutto or popcorn or this thing called taralli, which are like these little bread circles that
Mm-hmm.
originate from southern Italy, but people eat them everywhere in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is cool. I think aperitivo is a nice thing. I think it's cool because
Like it.
yeah, I mean, for me, I work as a teacher and I don't often work with other teachers because I
Mm-hmm.
have my class. I have my classes at the school that I teach in person, and then I teach some lessons online. And then the rest of my work, I'm doing private lessons in the students' homes. So I don't really have many colleagues except for the administrators at the school. And, you know, I only really talk to them in short bursts. So it's not like I get close to them, working closely with them. So when I go to an aperitivo, it's only ever with my friends, but a lot of times people are doing aperitivo with their work because sometimes I'll message a friend and say, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And they'll say, "Oh, I have a work aperitivo," which means like after work, they're all gonna go together and have that drink and have those little snacks before dinner. And it's really an interesting thing. I think it's a good thing. I like the concept of aperitivo.
Does it mean that Italians socialize more often than Americans? What do you think?
Um,
Not
hmm.
necessarily.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Ah, I got you.
they're
Tricky
social
question.
people. Yeah, and it's like they want to get together with their friends often, I feel. The weather is also good for that. Like if comparing to places, you know, I have a lot of international friends here in Milan, and so I can also contrast with their experiences. And people say like, "Oh, I'm from Finland, I'm from Sweden, and in the winter, like it gets lonely because we don't go out together and stuff, you know." But Italians are pretty much doing that throughout the year. Another big difference between Italy and I think also or Italy and the U.S., but also Poland is because when I was in Poland, it was illegal to drink alcohol in public. I
Yeah.
saw that was a and I was in Krakow, so a lot of tourists didn't know this. So I would go to um, a bar there, or I went to this one place that had a lot of fun games. It had like pool and shuffleboard and a lot of other table games.
Mhm.
And they made it very clear, like you cannot bring your alcohol out onto the street, like maybe you can
Yeah.
in the European country that you're from.
Uh-huh.
It's the same in the United States. Like you cannot drink on the street. Like you will be
Oh
arrested
no. Oh
immediately. You
no.
know. you will be arrested immediately. But in Italy, you can drink everywhere legally. You can drink on the bus,
Oh,
on the metro. There's
mm-hmm.
nowhere that it's illegal to be drinking. And so that's a pretty big difference. Also,
Mm-hmm.
just like the way people drink, I find is I think better here in Italy. They're more chill and relaxed about drinking. Americans have like a more binge drinking culture, like because we go to university when we're 18 and it's still illegal to drink.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then we have this kind of like forbidden fruit effect that happens where everybody wants to drink because it's not allowed, and it's like we're away from our parents for the first time. So they're like drinking in mass quantities and stuff. And
Hard
Italians don't do
liquors.
that. They drink so like casually and chill, and they just drink like a little bit of wine. And so it's less common in Italy or in Milan. You know, it's a big city, but I don't see people that like have taken it too far with alcohol as much as I did in California. In my hometown, I'm from a university town, so people would just be getting really drunk and like vomiting on the street, and it's just something you don't see in Italy, you know. So I think that's a positive change, honestly,
Yeah, but I
between
think you
Italy
made a,
and the United States.
good point. Because that's the thing
Hmm.
that in Poland is 18. I think Italy, France is probably uh, 16, kind of. It's
It,
not officially, but
I gotta.
parents allow them.
It's officially 18, but I'll be completely honest. Like
Yeah,
I was once with my friend who had her little brother there
yeah.
visiting from Denmark. She's Danish, and her little brother, I mean, he is 13 and looks 13. Ordered a drink, they don't even card him. Like
They're
I'm
more
not saying this
relaxed.
I'm not saying this is good or bad, but in the
I
United
know.
States, if you look 40 years old, you're still gonna get carded. They're
Oh,
gonna check
yeah.
your ID. If you look 40 years, they're gonna make sure that you are of age. Where in Italy, it's like they just don't really care, and
Mhm.
the amount of trouble that establishment will get in if they serve someone that's underage is low. Whereas in the United States, if you serve someone under 21, you will get your business will get shut down, you know? So that's a big contrast too. Like drinking culture
Yes.
is definitely different in Southern Europe versus the United States.
Mm-hmm. And maybe in Italy they drink more wine, which is not like a hard liquor. It's very
Yeah,
strong alcohol, whereas in the US or in Poland we have this culture of drinking vodka too.
yeah. Of course, like it's still available. Like you can, of course, still drink beer and vodka. It's just people
Yeah.
choose to less. I
Yeah.
think spritz is really common. They love spritz.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And now if it comes to work, like,
Hmm.
job market,
Hmm.
is it harder to find a job and make a living in Italy comparing to the US? Like, what's your experience? What's your opinion about it?
Well, from personal experience, it's hard to talk about a little bit because
Mhm.
for me, I haven't had issues with work, and that's a
Good.
big reason why I moved here. I did a lot of research in advance, you know, to make sure that if I'm going to move to a new country, I'm going to be able to work and have a nice financial situation.
Mhm.
And, you know, so I researched about it for a long time. And with my situation, I have a TEFL certification, I have a university degree, I have an Italian citizenship, and it's really like I also have the American, specifically Californian. It's probably like the thing they want the most, like, you know. And so I just am in the best position that when I put out my CV, like, you know, 80% of the places I submitted to respond the next day, you know, because they're used to English teachers that maybe don't have citizenship or aren't native English speakers or, you know, didn't finish university. And because I have this combination of things,
Mhm.
like, it's just really not an issue. I would say that that's different than the norm. I think a lot of people struggle with finding jobs in Italy as a generalization. Um, Italy is known to have a really good university system, and you know a lot of people come from other countries to study here, especially Milan. There's a lot of great universities, but it's kind of like once you graduate, you're better off going to your home country or Germany or something like this. This is just what I hear from other people. My situation is kind of unique
Yeah,
because of
it
having
is.
the dual citizenship
Mhm.
and being like uniquely posed to be a kind of a rare English teacher that has my level of qualifications and papers, I guess I could say. Um, but yeah, I do hear that it's difficult. There's another difference I can kind of go into. it's like the culture of having internships or trial periods in Italy is a lot different than the United States. In the United States, it's kind of like when you get hired, you're full on hired. They're paying you that full amount from day one. However, you don't have as much worker protections. It's like they can
Mhm.
fire you for any reason,
I know.
anytime.
That's a difference
Whereas,
compared to Poland.
whereas in Italy, there's this whole concept of, um, let's work for this place for 6 months, and then in those 6 months, maybe they don't pay you very much. I've
Mhm.
even heard of people doing it for free. And it's like you're really trying to get that contract.
Yeah.
And then once you get that contract, you're like, it's impossible to fire you. It's like you have that job and you can work that job for years and years and years. And unless you do something really bad, like it's difficult to fire you. So I guess there's pros and cons with this system compared to the United States. In the United States, even a friend I have who's very successful, who works in Silicon Valley, he has like these type of tech jobs. I
Yeah.
mean, it's expected that you're going to work for this job for like 6 months, a year, then the company's going to fire you and you're going to find another job. Whereas in Italy, it's like everyone's trying to just get that contract, and they might go through several trial periods trying to get that contract. But once they get that contract, unless they want to leave the job, it's very hard with the worker protections and everything for them to be fired. So this is like a really big difference between the United States and maybe Europe in general. I've heard the protections are even stronger in countries like France than they are in Italy.
Mhm.
So that's what it seems like. It's like once you get into that job, it's very difficult to let you go. Whereas in the United States, you can work for a long time, but then they can let you go. There's also the topic of the raw salary. People often see that the salary looks better in the United States, but they also have to factor in that the living expenses are a bit higher because maybe in Europe you don't have to pay for a car or health insurance or
Mhm.
some of these expenses that kind of add up. Maybe even rent is significantly more than European cities.
Yeah.
So I think Europeans sometimes see like someone in California's raw salary and they get jealous and stuff, but it's because they don't have the experience factoring in that like living in America will cost a bit more than Europe.
That's something that I learned when I
Yeah,
moved there. Because, like you said, of course, the
yeah,
salary looks better. Most Europeans think that Americans earn a lot, but like you said, you have to pay for your own health insurance. You usually have
yeah,
to have a car, and then rent. Oh my goodness, to rent an apartment in
yeah.
Boston, at least $3,000 a month. So you really,
Ooh, that's
like
higher than I would have guessed. I was gonna say like 2,000, but 3,000. Oh my God.
2000 for maybe, a very small studio, very small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and not exactly in like one of the best neighborhoods, but it's still
Hmm.
you really have to have a very high salary. So
Yeah.
even if you have a very good job, you still pay a lot for rent and all
Hmm.
other expenses. So you're still not rich. It's not that
Yeah.
easy.
Hmm.
But of course you can find a very good job. All right. So it's good that you mentioned that you can see
Sure.
it. You can see those like hidden costs, expenses that maybe are not that obvious for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So all in all, you wouldn't say that it's really that much better in America. Like,
Well, I don't know. I mean, everybody's situation is different.
mhm.
I can't make a blanket statement because
Yeah,
let's say, you're we can use a egregious example. Like if you're a professional basketball player
yeah.
and you're one of the best in the world, you're not going to
Hmm.
stay in Europe because Europe is
Good point.
has better healthcare and stuff. You're going to
You're
go to the
right.
United States because that's where you're going to get paid. So
Yes.
there's certain jobs, of course, like if someone wants to work in Hollywood or an
Yeah.
environment that doesn't exist in Europe, that the United States is going to be the best place for them.
Hmm.
And in some ways, I'm sure that exists in the reverse too. There's going to be some industries in Europe that do not exist in the United States. So it can really depend on what your job is and what your situation is.
Yeah.
However, I would say if you are like working at a low level job that doesn't have a lot of opportunity for advancement, let's say in fast food or something, in some ways, I feel like it'll be better to be in Europe because you won't have I have so many friends like that are working those type of jobs, who aren't working in a job that required a university degree, and they don't have enough money to pay for their health insurance at all. You
Hmm.
know, and so that's not a good position to be in. Whereas in Europe, you can be unemployed and you're still going to know that if you get hit by a car or
Yeah.
you have some really difficult health issue, that you're going to be able to get some treatment for that. And there are people in the United States that just have to just let have to just live with that health condition, or just have to always have the anxiety that, man, if I get
Hmm.
hit by a car, like I'm gonna not only be hurt, I'm gonna be bankrupt, you know.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's totally depends on who you are, you know.
Yeah.
Like there can be some situations where it's definitely advantageous to be in the United States, and then there's some situations where I think it would be advantageous to be in Europe. I mean, and I also feel bad talking about this sometimes in the first place, just because I know that I have a situation that isn't what everyone has. I have citizenship in both continents,
Hmm.
so I can make that choice. Whereas, you know, I have one of my best friends. He's been trying to move to Portugal for
Oh,
years and years,
yeah.
and he is going to make it happen this year. But you know,
Hmm.
he just has to deal with visas and way more paperwork and bureaucracy. And even once you do arrive, it kind of feels tenuous, like they could always pull the rug out from you for some reason because you're not a full citizen.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I am lucky to even be able to have this option to consider both places. You know.
Definitely, definitely. You can always go back if you ever need to.
Yeah.
You have two choices and beautiful choices. Italy is
Yeah.
wonderful. California is wonderful. If any of our followers or students would like to move to America, maybe what
Mhm.
would you recommend? What's your advice for them?
Well, I've never done the move in that direction, but I don't know. Maybe you can talk a little bit more on this subject, because I imagine for you, you had to deal with citizenship issues and things like that.
Mhm. I was
Um,
thinking more about,
yeah,
like cultural things, how to
cultural
make
things. Okay, so let's
yeah.
say hypothetically they don't have to worry so much about the bureaucracy.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's
Okay.
not think about that. But small talk, for example. I know that this is
Yeah, small
something.
talk.
This is an issue for Polish people. It is a
Yeah,
little bit tricky because Polish people, I feel like we are more direct. If I call my friend, I don't really have to start with like, "Hi, how are you doing?" But I can
yeah.
just go direct with like, "Hey, I have this and this going on. Let's
Ah,
talk about
okay.
that." You know what I mean? And
Really?
then
Okay,
at
that's interesting.
work, or with when I was working as a real estate agent in Boston, I feel like I had something like an urgent thing I wanted to discuss with the agent or my client, and we kind of had to go through this little small talk before
Yeah,
jumping on a bigger thing. So
yeah.
maybe
So
small talk.
So you think in Poland, for example, you're in this real estate situation, both people don't know each other. It would be kind of unusual to be like, so, like, how's your family? How are your kids and stuff with someone you don't know?
A little bit
Yeah,
harder for us. I feel like
yeah,
yes, when there are strangers, we don't really know people. Yes, we kind of were more reserved. And I've
yeah.
noticed the same thing when, in Boston, whenever I was like just walking, like, I don't know, biking, random people, some strangers were like, "Hi, how are you doing? What's up?" And just starting talking to me. And in Poland, it can happen,
Hmm.
but it's not that often, I think. We have to learn
Yeah.
it in a way.
Well, after living in both places, I feel that's the only way. If you live in both countries for a while,
Hmm.
or both continents for a while, I've kind of developed a whole way of thinking about this, you know?
Right?
'Cause even my mom, when she visited Milan, which
Hmm.
maybe is still Italy, it's still Italy, so it's still probably warmer overall than Northern Europe. And I can say that I feel that way too. Like, because I went to Prague and I went to Krakow, and not that people are rude there, but they're not going to like, sometimes you walk into a store and
Hmm.
people just like ignore your existence, you know? Whereas at
Could
least
be.
maybe, you know, in Italy they'll be like buongiorno, or like
Uh-huh.
they'll say like how are you, like or a good day. Where you know, I didn't experience that when I was in some countries in Northern Europe. You know, like I just felt it's a little colder in like Budapest and in
Mhm.
Krakow and Prague when I went to those places. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that you know, even Italy can seem cold compared to the kind of friendliness of the United States, where people
Right? Yeah.
can really be really warm.
Hmm.
But I feel that there's like this kind of mm, there's this little bit dark reason behind that.
Oh, what is
And
the reason?
yeah, I don't want to. Maybe dark is a little bit dramatic of a word to use, but let's say that in Italy, I noticed
Mhm.
that people sometimes are not like aware of their surroundings or how their presence is like inconveniencing the people around them. Okay, so let's start with that. Like maybe three people are walking on the sidewalk just so
Mhm.
slow, like they're not going anywhere, and you know, they're just out for a walk, and they're not like looking behind them to see if they're holding up traffic or anything. They're just in their own world, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
like I noticed that so much because Americans wouldn't do that. They wouldn't just block
Mhm.
the whole sidewalk with three people.
Yeah.
And the reason being is I think Americans maybe are like slightly more afraid of each other
Mm.
than and of upsetting each other than Europeans. So like in Italy, they have this just sense of security where they don't really think about bothering the people around them because they're not worried that that person is gonna like be like, "Hey man, what are you doing? You know, you want to fight?" Which I'm saying can happen in the United States. Like it
Yes.
can happen. So some of the friendliness and like the smiling and asking people how they are is
Mhm.
because there isn't that like automatic sense of security of the people around you. And you're kind of testing the people around you. You're kind of like, you're being friendly, yes, and it comes off very friendly, but it's like you're trying to make sure the people around you are okay, you know? There is a higher level of violence in the United States than there is in Europe. So you have
Mhm.
to think, wait, there's a higher level of violence in the United States, but people are also friendlier. Let's dissect that and think about that. You know,
Interesting. Yeah.
it may be because in Europe, people are already kind of feeling secure and they're not really, they don't feel the need to like,
Hmm.
hey, how are you? And like smile at each other to make sure the people around them are okay, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
That that's the way that I perceive it. And when I've discussed this with people that have lived in both continents, they sometimes they're like, "Wow, I didn't think about that before," but I
Yeah.
think that there is some truth to what you're saying. So I don't know. It's a theory. It's not something that is true.
Yeah.
It's just like necessarily true. It's just my observation and my what I think may be the case.
I think you made a good point. I had this impression when I moved to the US for the first time that I
Hmm.
wasn't aware of the danger. Some people
Hmm.
told me that, oh, Paulina, you should be more careful because there were some strangers coming up to me, and then I realized that a lot of them were, for example, drug addicts, people with some
Hmm.
mental issues. And
Yeah.
somebody just asked me something, and I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, I this and that. And then I realized that that there could be some more danger. And I feel like
Yeah.
in Poland when I was growing up, nobody really taught me that oh, you have to be really aware, like
Yeah.
careful. I mean, now the world is getting more dangerous, so we have to be
Hmm.
careful everywhere we go. But you made a good point about this thing that in when you are in the USA, I feel like you're right that you have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings.
Yeah. It's also, and just like even maybe separating the danger aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, it's just that the United States is a huge melting pot of people.
All right.
If you're in Poland or you're in Italy, for example, is 92% Italian people. And
Uh-huh.
I'm sure Poland is somewhat similar, you know, like the grand majority of people there are Polish. They have a Polish look and a Polish, they shared Polish language. Whereas in the United States, it's just people from the entire planet all in one place. So by doing that small talk, you're trying to like find some common ground with people where the common ground is like already assumed in those when you're in Poland or when you're in Italy, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
like we already have common ground. Like I assume, like I'm an Italian walking through Italy, and there's a Francesco and a Federico and a Fabio like around me, and we all had a similar background. We
Yeah.
all grew up listening to the same music, same TV shows. In the United States, it can just be like people have completely different experiences and backgrounds, and so some of that is kind of like it's also curiosity. It's not just like a
Yeah.
rooted in fear, but it's like, yeah, the people um, might just be curious about who you are, and there's more of a chance that someone, even if they look similar to you, could be from a completely different culture or part of the world,
Oh,
like their ancestors are like from completely different place. You
yeah,
know, I don't know.
that's
These are
super
just my
interesting. You
my
know,
perspective.
I personally love this small talk in America because I feel like it really
Yeah,
brings people closer. And for
yeah,
example, I feel like I had a stronger, like better connection with my neighbors just by saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" And
yeah,
we
yeah,
didn't even have to go deep, but at least we were, saying something like, "Hey, I can see you,"
yeah,
instead of just ignoring people and treating them as complete strangers. So I
yeah,
loved it. And
yeah.
I
And I
felt like
think, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just feel like they're genuine with it. This
Yeah,
smile, this hi, how are you doing? It makes people happier when everyone smiles at each other. That's my
yeah,
impression.
yeah. And from what I understand, it really extends beyond just the United States of America. We can say
Mhm.
people are like this in all of North and South America compared to Europeans. Like
Mhm.
they have a higher chance of small talk and
Mhm.
like checking on people with a big smile,
Yeah.
because people from like Mexico or Canada or Brazil will tell you this too, that they'll say, and they'll go to Europe and say, oh yeah, people are more closed and cold, so I think it's like a America's thing, not just United States of America.
Oh, Americans. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This I love this about Americans and this aspect of an American culture. But I feel like
Hmm.
as Europeans are very friendly. We are friendly. I think we get more open after some time, and
Hmm.
then we really want to socialize more often. We really want to get together, and
Yeah.
maybe we just need a little bit more time to like break the ice. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be. And now about the language. As
Hmm.
you know, lots of non-native English speakers are afraid of speaking English. Even if we know English very well, we have this anxiety, fear. Lots of, my students, followers complain about that there is this language barrier. And
Hmm.
for you as an American, like, how do Americans perceive that? Do you really care about our mistakes when we speak English and we make some mistakes?
Well, living here, almost, I mean, I very, very infrequently living in Milan interact with people that are native English speakers. Even in my job, there's very few.
Mhm.
A lot of them are actually Italians, or there's some from Poland and Ukraine, and there's only been a handful in the time that I've worked in this particular school. There's been like one Canadian, one from South Africa, one from England, but the grand majority of the people I interact with are not native English speakers.
Right?
And I've really gotten used to that, because I live here in a country in which English is not the native language. And so I feel like people, when they make maybe subject, verb, objects, they put it in a different order than it should be, or they say, I'll make you know, instead of like, I'll let you know. It's like,
Hmm.
I don't even notice it anymore,
Oh.
because it's just they have kind
Mhm.
of the frequent same mistakes that they make,
Mhm.
especially
Mhm.
Italians, they'll all have like the same mistakes that they always make. And it's just too difficult to like always stop the flow of conversation to correct them. Actually, you should say it this way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've gotten so used to it. I don't know exactly um, how it would have been for me. It's hard to even think back to how it was for me 4 or 5 years ago. But I can say that I knew a guy from Italy before I moved to Italy, and it's it's not an issue when people aren't speaking perfect English as long
Mhm.
as you understand them,
Mhm.
as long as the meaning is conveyed correctly, and it really isn't a problem for me. But I also can't speak for everyone because there's people unfortunately that are going to be less flexible or understanding, and if you don't speak perfect English, maybe they'll be rude to you. But I think this is also true in every country. Um,
Yes.
they just What's that?
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
I lived for many years in America, and nobody ever, no American person ever like made me feel worse because of my
Yeah. Well,
English.
you sound native to begin with, so it's
Thank
not.
you. But but I feel like American people are very tolerant. That's my
Yeah.
observation, because it's not just me, but many other people. And
Yeah.
when I went to America for the first time, of course, my English wasn't that as good as it is now.
Hmm.
It's still, we learn all our life.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's because there are so many cultures, so many nationalities, so many people with broken English who make mistakes and who still get good jobs. They
Yeah.
get promoted.
Hmm.
They function in this society, even with broken English, with mistakes, with their accents. And
Yeah.
I find it so beautiful that there is no judgment. That's my impression. Even when we think about,
Yeah.
Melania Trump, like we listen to her, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? She still
Yeah.
has a very fixed, strong accent after so many years. And
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah, I want to say I only brought that up because I think in a place like Boston or California, people are going to be very accommodating and
Mm-hmm.
never going, but there are little pockets of the United States where
Ah,
people are more xenophobic. It's just true.
I've never
You,
been
you,
there.
yeah, luckily you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, people are going to be cool about it, and aren't going to be like, oh, you need to speak English absolutely perfectly, or I can't talk to you. As long as the meaning is comes across and is conveyed well, it's no problem.
Okay, so guys, you
I
can
mean,
hear it. Yeah, the
yeah, I
meaning is the
mean,
most important, the message.
yeah, I mean, I don't even. I live in Italy, so I'm dealing with the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know often when I go to the pharmacy or I go to the grocery store and I need to talk to someone for more than a quick interaction, that I'm butchering the language a little bit. I'm not conjugating the verbs
Mm-hmm.
correctly. I'm leaving out some articles and prepositions. But if they understand me and don't have to, because I mean, first of all, a lot of them can't speak English. This is of everywhere in Europe, they have the lowest level of English, and this is also
Uh-oh.
a reason that my skills are in demand here.
Oh
If
yeah.
I try to go teach in Norway, I don't think I'd get as many jobs because
Mhm.
everyone can speak English in Norway. But in Italy, there's oftentimes I have to talk to a doctor, or I need to go to the pharmacy, or just anything like this, and the person does not speak English. But I can get through the conversation in Italian, and they're never rude about it. They're always
Wonderful.
encouraging.
Mhm.
I've never had, I can say that I've never had someone just get frustrated with me or be like, oh, I can't talk to you. And that is a positive thing about
It
Italy
is.
because, they appreciate you trying. And I imagine that it's very similar going to the United States.
Wonderful. Yeah, we all
Yeah.
should appreciate each other when we try to speak a foreign language, because we
Yeah.
really make a big effort. It's not that
Yeah. It
easy.
takes a lot of time. It
Mhm.
does. Hmm.
Some controversial questions. How do you feel about, you don't have to answer this question, but about this current situation and in the US? I'm curious about homeless situation, especially in
Hmm.
California, because I know what it looks like in Boston. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think it's as bad as they, represent California. They say that there is a bigger problem.
I think California does have the worst issue with it in the United States, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of that is because of climate. Because, okay, in Boston, in the winter, it's going to be difficult for a homeless person to survive. In Los Angeles, they can survive year round. And
Mm-hmm.
so it has led to a situation where maybe someone becomes homeless in a colder city, maybe in like Michigan or Minneapolis or something, and then
Mm-hmm.
they end up doing everything they can to get to California because there's a bit of like a whole infrastructure for being homeless there. There's a lot of services to help people that may not exist in other parts of the country. So definitely, in the big cities in the United States, and even honestly the smaller towns, there is like a high level of homeless for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that it always shocks any European that I talk to, that goes and visits California, and then maybe that someone had the idea that like Milan, where I live, has a lot of homeless people because you see some, but compared to California, there's almost none, when you're just talking about the raw numbers. And there's a drug problem with fentanyl. It's a really big issue, and this drug has just, it's just so powerful, and it just creates such high levels of addiction. And it doesn't seem to have reached Europe, the same way. So I mean, there's no way to talk about this in a sugar-coated way. It is an issue for sure in the United States. Um, I hope that it can get better, but uh, you know, it is a present thing that anyone going to California, you can't avoid it. I mean, unless you go to just the absolute most affluent places where there's really not that much to see in the first place, except, wealthy homes, you're going to see it. You're going to encounter it there. Yeah.
Do you feel
Mhm.
safer in Europe?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Like, I'm not ever feeling in danger in Milan, and the thing is, like, many Italians do, because a lot of Italians that move to Milan for work, and they're from a small village in Italy where there's absolutely no danger, and so then they move to Milan, which does have some danger. Like, I'm not trying to minimize the fact that there is danger here. On my street, I've seen break-ins, cars being broken into, apartments being broken into. It happens, but I think there's less violent crime for sure.
Less shooting
And
stuff like that, right?
there's a lot less. There's parts of Los Angeles and the Bay Area that I just really would not ever want to walk through, even in the
Really?
daytime. And here, I really feel like there's not a part of the city that I can't walk at 2 a.m. But I'm more confident and brazen than other people on this subject, and I wouldn't say the same for a woman, to be honest. Like, I would, if I were a woman, it would be different.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, they're just more likely to be assaulted, in truth.
Yeah.
So I do have some privilege there, just being a man and feeling safe. It's not the level of, I've been in Japan in my life, and I could tell my mom and sister, like, you can walk anywhere in that country,
Oh, wow.
you're gonna be all right. You're gonna feel all right.
That's a big
Um,
difference.
yeah, but in Milan, I wouldn't say that. I would say most places, most of the time, you're gonna be okay. Definitely more of a sense of security in Milan than maybe an equal-sized city in the United States, in my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's also there's also more police presence in the United States. Sometimes I feel like, in the US, I felt like, wow, there's too many cops around. They're just everywhere. And here, I almost feel the opposite, where sometimes it's just like, where are all the police, especially in areas that need them? And sometimes when I do see the way police are behaving in Italy, sometimes, like, American police would never behave. Like, you'll just see like 3 or 4 of them sitting around, like, smoking their little electronic cigarettes, like, chatting for like a long time.
Oh,
And you're
really?
like, wow, like, in the United States, that police would always be like looking for someone to 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 get in trouble. But I think it's the way they're paid and is different. Like, in the United States, they have quotas they have to meet. They have to make like certain amounts of arrests. And in Italy, this doesn't really exist. So there's differences in, the whole police institutions between the two countries.
That absolutely makes sense.
hmm It,
Yeah.
it also takes only 6 months to become a police officer in the United States. So that
Oh,
might be why there's more of them,
no.
whereas it can take 5 years in Italy.
Oh.
So there's going to be less people that are going to go through 5 years of education, whereas there'll be a lot more that'll go through 6 months of education. Yeah.
Um, what else about the language? Something else about the language. What is your best practical advice for someone who understands English but freezes when they have to speak? It's like about this speaking part. Like maybe you have as a teacher,
hmm
any other, pieces of advice that you can give, we can share.
I mean, just push through it. Like I always think of my one friend from Japan who he's really not very typical of the type of person you'd expect from Japan, because I've been to Japan, and it's fair to say that a lot of people there are can be timid and hard to, and like they won't approach you and they're a bit quiet. And then I have one friend who's the opposite of that in every way. And he, when he speaks English, just has no concern whether he's um, speaking it completely accurately. And I think that this is an admirable trait about him, because he is frequently saying things incorrectly, or like, rather than saying "what's that," maybe he'd say "what that," and just, but he does it with full confidence, and everybody understands what he's saying, so there's no problem. I mean, so I think developing that kind of mentality is important, because I took that for Italian. I
Yeah.
took that from him, because I was like, okay, I'm going to speak Italian, even if I know that the Italian person is hearing me and thinking like, wow, he's really using the wrong tenses and the slightly incorrect vocabulary. Because as long as that conversation can exist, it can go back and forth, and the person can understand what you're talking about, then it's irrelevant if you're speaking the exact correct words, So kind of developing that kind of confidence that you don't need to sound like a native speaker at all. You need to get your meaning across, and that's really all that matters in language. Everything beyond that is just kind of extra.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because this is something that I stress too when I work with my students. I tell them that, you will go abroad, you will go to the US or England, whatever, and you have situations that you have to deal with every day. There are
Yeah.
quick reactions that you have to do. So of course it's important to study grammar, to have everything like organized in your head. But more important is to know a lot of words, like vocabulary,
Hmm.
expressions, to understand, so to listen to native speakers a lot. So there are certain skills, and like you said, this kind of bravery,
Hmm.
to speak, like, even though we make mistakes, but we should still be more confident, and just to try to do our best. Then
Yeah.
we can be more confident, and we have to practice, so we are more confident. If we don't practice, we freeze, we have an anxiety,
Yeah.
then we can't proceed, like we can't make more progress.
Yeah, I also think input is important. Watching shows without subtitles in the
Oh,
native.
without. All right.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it depends what level the student is at, but you want
Mm-hmm.
to get to the point where you can watch it without subtitles, and um, because you're just going to be watching the subtitles the whole time and not getting a sense for hearing what's being spoken if you're too reliant on the subtitles. If you're really new to a language, you need to have the subtitles. Like if it's your first week or a couple months studying, but I would aim to try to watch content without subtitles and make it easy content if you need to. Like I was watching children's shows in Italian for a long time without
Mm-hmm.
subtitles, but before I could
Mm-hmm.
graduate, and now um, I watch like anime, so
Mm-hmm.
it's still a little bit more adult and quick. The speaking is quicker than it would be in a show specifically made for children. But once I really could understand that show for children without subtitles, it was like, okay, time to graduate to
Mm-hmm.
people speaking more quickly. And yeah, so I've watched all of one of my favorite animes in Italian, almost all of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip. I personally find, adding English subtitles very helpful, because
Yeah,
English pronunciation is irregular. Unlike Polish
yeah.
or Italian,
Unlike Italian too.
so then it's
That's
like if you
true.
see a new word and you're a non-native speaker, you might not know how to read it. It's like, all
Yeah,
those towns in Massachusetts, like,
yeah.
how the heck
That
you might know how to read it if you haven't heard it before.
and that's a really good point, because that is one of the most difficult things about learning English.
Mm-hmm.
For Italian, for example, what's more difficult is gender. You need to know if every noun is a
Yeah.
la or an il. Like
Yeah.
in Spanish, it's la or el. It's
Mm-hmm.
il in Italian. And you need to know there's more tenses. Like if you're speaking something that's an opinion, you have to use a different tense. In English, you don't have to do that. You don't have to
Even
change the
more
tense.
than in English?
Well, like, there's like a whole different verb conjugation for when something is an opinion or
Mhm.
when it's conjunctive.
Okay.
There's just more tenses in I
Mhm.
think all romance based languages, Latin based languages, and that's what's more difficult about them: the gender and the more
I
tenses, and
agree.
maybe there's also more prepositions
Yeah.
because of the gender. Like we have il and lo and
Mhm.
dalo and dal, depending on everything. And it's just the in English, just the. Whereas we have like, like 30 versions of the in Italian, so that can be difficult. But on the other hand, what's more difficult about English is the inconsistent pronunciation. You have the word tear, like strappare, like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
tear,
Mhm. And a
something, and then
cheater.
you have tear,
Yeah.
and those are spelled the exact same way with
Mhm.
completely different meanings.
Yeah, or
Then
Connecticut,
you
the
just
state.
yeah, you have
Connecticut, not
Connecticut is
connect, huh?
impossible. Massachusetts is impossible.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a lot of the states, because they have Native American derivation, so they have very kind of strange names like
Mhm.
Wisconsin,
Oh, yeah.
and because these were Native American words that they put into
Mhm.
English, which
Mhm.
definitely gives it inconsistent pronunciation. So yeah, that is a good insight, because Italian is not like that. Italian, the pronunciation is always consistent. How you
Same
read
with
it is
Polish.
just the same, is perfectly. There's
Hmm.
never like one word where it's like, oh, well, we pronounce it this way when it means this, and we pronounce it this way when it means that.
Yeah.
English also has a lot of words with multiple accepted pronunciations, like either, either,
Yeah, it's true.
apricots, apricots,
Uh-huh.
all these words like,
Direct, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, those
British
don't
American. Hmm.
that doesn't exist at all in Italian. There's one way to pronounce it. The only time it's if there's another way to pronounce it is if now we're talking about different dialects. But in the standard Italian, there's just one way to pronounce each word. It's not like you have these multiple accepted pronunciations.
Hmm. Well, so it's good to know. Well, there are some challenging things about English, but it's doable.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah. And about this political, political changes, do current political changes affect how you feel about life in the US? Has this changed?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. I heard about lots
Uh,
of Americans who said that even they don't want to come back to the US or they are moving to Europe because of what's happening in America right now.
yeah, I mean, I'm really a lucky human being in a lot of ways, because I have my double citizenship. I have the option to move here, and I am pretty much the least persecuted type of person in terms of just being a white male
Mhm.
um, who is not a member of like a minority religion or anything like this. And from a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing in the last couple of years, there's a lot of um, fear over people that aren't that. There's people are worried about these different religions and different ethnicities and different sexual orientations. And so if I were one of those people, I would, and I have a lot of empathy for them, because there's reasons to feel not safe, and it didn't feel that way before, like in from the years 2008 to 2016 when we had Obama. Everything felt like everything's getting more and more relaxed, and no matter who you are, it's okay. And then things went in the opposite direction.
Mhm.
And so that's, without getting too emotional on the subject or blaming certain
Mhm.
individuals or parties, that does seem to be like the trend,
Mhm.
and so yeah, there are some things that feel like we had it better, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and now things are going in the less
Mhm.
nice direction. That's just my perspective on it. There's going to be, of course, people that disagree.
Mhm. Well, that's your perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate all the answers. And I'm really happy that we had this conversation, that we made it. Thomas, would you
Yeah.
like to add anything? Is there anything that we maybe skipped that we didn't
Let's
talk
see.
about?
let's see if there was anything that we missed like entirely. A
Yeah.
lot of thing we started talking about one thing often, and then it led into another one
I
of our
know.
questions, which is good. It was a natural flowing conversation. Oh, you also were going to ask me about the
Mhm.
differences between like British English and Irish
Oh yeah,
English
yeah,
and
yeah.
Australian. And I have to say for myself, I understand them all. I
Uh-huh.
would say classically everybody thinks the most difficult one is Scottish.
Mhm.
Everybody finds that to be the most difficult accent and dialect. But for me, because I've been so exposed to each one of these accents, like I've listened to so much music and so many TV shows that are British or Australian, that there's just no issues at all. Um, and it's funny, with Canadians. Canadians sound more or less like like Americans. We just had the
Mhm.
Olympics in Milan, and so there were a lot of the Winter Olympics. So we had a lot of Canadians here. And as soon when a Canadian is first talking to me, there's no way to know if they're American or Canadian. They sound more or less the same. If someone is British or Australian, I'm gonna know immediately where they're from. But with Canadians, you only know when they use specific words.
Oh, yeah, I was curious about it because of course
Yeah,
I can tell, like you said, Australian, New Zealand,
yeah.
Scottish, Irish, British, super different. Like the sound
Hmm.
Americans sound totally different. Lots of words that you guys use differently too. But then Canadians, I can't
Yeah, I mean,
tell.
well, it's like there's kind of to me there's like a standard English
Mhm.
or American English, and I guess it's really the one from California because California is where Hollywood is. So,
Yeah, yeah.
the way I speak is the same way you're going to hear like the Avengers speak or any of these
Uh-huh.
movies.
Mhm.
That's how they're going to speak the way I speak. But even within the
Mhm.
United States, you have like the Southern dialect, the way people speak in Alabama and Florida is going to be different than there is also a Boston accent, and
Oh, I
there's
know. I love
yeah, yeah, it's
it.
nice. I love it. Yeah, and I
Like
would always
I'm the
recognize
most
that one.
used to it.
The ones I would always recognize would be the like Southern accent,
Mhm.
the New York Brooklyn accent, the Boston
Mhm.
accent, and the Midwest accent. Like people from Minnesota, and they have a particular way of speaking.
Mhm.
You can also tell it from Chicago a little bit sometimes the way that they pronounce their vowels. But with Canadians, it's like they speak that standard American English without any accent, but
Yeah.
they use specific words like the big giveaway is washroom because Americans always say bathroom or
Yeah.
restroom. They
Yeah.
always say washroom, and it's
Oh,
like
okay.
only Canadians say that. Like no American would ever say washroom,
Yeah.
and they pronounce one vowel differently, like and that's in the word like about or out. They say oot, say about or oot,
Good to know.
and this will always the moment you hear that you're like Canadian.
Ah, so there are little things.
Yeah,
Thanks to that, you can.
there's
Mhm.
just like these few little words that they use that make it clear, but other than that, they really sound American. You
Yeah.
know?
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, you see, for our followers, for our students, it's very important to be exposed to different
yeah,
variations of English.
it
So that's
is important.
what do you know I've been doing when I had some like British friends, Irish friends, then American friends, and it's like my brain had to get used to all those accents, dialects to start understanding them
Yeah,
because it's harder for us. It's more challenging than for you. Like you can
yeah,
understand most of those things, and for us, it's like it takes a little bit more time. We had to listen to it, and then it clicks. Then we
yeah.
can understand it too.
And then, of course, comparing the United Kingdom and the United States, there's a lot of words that they use that we don't use, and vice
Totally. Oh yeah.
versa. But
Hmm.
even more difficult are the expressions because there's a lot of expressions that are shared between the United States and the United Kingdom, but there's still some expressions where if maybe I'm watching a British show
Hmm.
and I just won't understand the reference or what they're
Ah, so
saying.
it happens.
It can happen. It happens rarely for me because I
Yeah.
I like some British shows, so I feel like I'm
Mhm.
really exposed to their accent and
Mhm.
way of speaking. And I mean, I'm exposed to the real British because like I'm not talking watching a show where they use the like a medieval type of show will use that like the Game of Thrones way they speak in Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
that's a British accent, but they're not using those modern slang British
Yeah. Yeah.
expressions and words because it's in this fantasy world. But if
Uh-huh.
you watch a show that's like takes place in like London these days, they were going to use some phrases and expressions that are they're odd. Like I was watching a British movie and they say bear to mean it's very strange, honestly. I didn't understand it at first. But they say like essentially bear replaces very. Like
Mhm.
I'm very mad. You could say I'm bear mad, mates. You know, I'm
Wow.
bear mad.
Yeah, I
And so
didn't hear it.
this word like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Bare, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it should go there, but it's
Mhm.
they use it to mean like very, or
Mhm.
in California we use the word hella, and this word is kind of contained to California. They don't say it throughout the whole of the United States,
Uh-huh.
but we'd say like, oh, I'm hella mad or I'm hella hungry.
Uh-huh.
And the British people say bear now for this. I'm bear hungry, mates. And I was like,
Oh.
what does that mean? I don't understand it. And then
Mhm.
I looked it up, and now I understand it. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're really intelligible. You can understand everything that they're saying. They might just have a couple modern
Mhm.
words that are
You're
difficult.
right. Yeah, as long as we listen to both, I mean, like various variations of English, actually, not just British, because there are so many,
Yeah,
then we can really like start understanding more and more. But the worst is if we only listen to one content, for example, only American shows, only American
yeah,
series, then it's tricky when you hear suddenly you hear British people or people from Australia, and they're like, what? What's going on?
yeah,
What language is it?
yeah. And you just also get more of a feel for their sense of humor in that other country, and like the way that they think too. You know,
Yeah.
it's like British humor is often described as more dry and ironic,
Mhm.
and maybe less slapstick than American. And so you really should expose yourself to as many types of English as you can. You know, I would recommend that to any of your students watching. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah, of course. Mhm.
Did we cover everything we wanted to?
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
if you want to talk
Okay.
about anything else, I'm still available. But you know, if you want to wrap up, that's fine as well.
I think we're good for now, and
Yeah.
hopefully, we'll meet again. I'm
Hmm.
glad that actually it worked, that
Yeah, it worked. Uh, it seems like a lot of you know, everybody that's in here for the most part are my followers, though. So if you want to do another one and we test it and make sure we troubleshoot this so that next time it's your followers, we can definitely do that if you want to do it again.
yeah, we'll find some other topic maybe, and
Hmm.
we can do it again.
Hmm.
Guys, thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Sarah. Mhm.
We really appreciate you joining us for this live. I hope Thomas will be able to save it.
Hmm.
So then it will show up on my profile as well. I will accept it. You will save it and add me.
Yeah, I
You,
recorded it.
you okay, but you can also save it here,
Ah,
Like
okay. No, I didn't know,
again,
but I'll try that.
yeah, try that option. Do it
Hmm.
slowly and try
Okay.
to save it. And after you save it, you will be able to add me as
Okay.
collaborator. I think there is such an option, and then
Okay.
I'll
So
accept it.
let's finish, and then I'll get
Mhm.
that figured out, and I can send it to
Fingers
you.
crossed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.